Well, I think it's time for Sawtooth to tell you a bit about my checkered past. I ain't always been the cleanly paragon of virtue that I am today. I spent a little time in the clink in the lockup. I did. And let me tell you, it wasn't the prison they got today. The prison they got today is real bad, except for how they treat the prisoners, with their cable and the television and being allowed to sit on the beds and the 3 hots in a cot. We didn't even have a cot. My prison career was mainly uneventful, with the exception of one prison riot, which I did participate in. It was over the food, you see. And they was feeding us the same food over and over and over and over and over for about 8 or 9 years of my life. I ate the same meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They would just feed us lobsters constantly, day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out. Our hands were getting cut up from cracking the shells because they didn't give us none of the crunches to get the meat out, obviously. Because why would they do that? Because we could use them as weapons. Joke's on them. I still got a necklace of lobster claws hanging somewhere down here. And I leaned over to my cellmate, who we happened to eat lunch with. We were friends at the time. We have since had a falling out. And I leaned over and I said, Ed Begley Jr., we gotta do something about this. If I see another one of these damn sea bugs, I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna crack somebody's skull open, which incidentally was just what landed me in the clink in the first place. And Ed Begley Jr. said, Sawtooth, that's all I needed. And he kicked over the table and he pulled up 2 lobster claws, big as your hands, and he slipped them on like gloves. We was flipping over tables. We were stabbing guards with lobsters. It was pandemonium. It was absolutely fantastic. One of the happiest moments of my life. So they just set the prison on fire in an attempt to stop the riot. Well, let me tell you what. Ain't nothing gonna calm down some lobster-eating prisoners like fire. We're trapped in the courtyard. Big old ring of fire. Ed Begley Jr. say, Sawtooth, I'll never forget the look on his face when he said this to me. I'll never forget his words. He looked at me in the eye, similar to how I'm looking at you. A mixture of derision, the haunting memory of the men that he just murdered with his lobster claw gloves, and love. He looked me right in the eye and he said, Sawtooth, I've always loved you. Ran out the courtyard, right through the fire. I never saw that sumbitch again. I presume he's dead. If any of you out there know the quaint whereabouts of Ed Begley Jr., he might still have lobster hands for hands. If you know where he is, you contact old Sawtooth. You send a pigeon in the underground with a message on it. I miss my friend. Who's probably dead. Anyway, moral of the story is, lobster sucks, and so does prison.